I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Rainer von Borstel, who has served as a member of the executive board of Diehl since April 2010 and also became president of the corporate board Diehl Aerosystems in October 2010. In this function, he is leading the biggest of 5 corporate divisions of the Diehl Group. Before his current appointments at Diehl, he served roles with industrial services supplier EDAG GmbH, galley manufacturer Muhlenberg Interiors GmbH, now apparently Diehl Service Modules GmbH, engineering service provider for Airline GmbH and Airbus. That's a bit of a mouthful, but I'm sure the talk will be very, very entertaining. Please join me in welcoming Rainer von Borstel.
Yeah, many thanks for this kind and long introduction. I have to say the company I'm representing is a classical SFE supplier, so seller furnished equipment. That means we are not talking directly to airlines or to customers, but of course we would like to do it in future, so that I give you a certain other view today in my presentation compared to what you've seen before. And my title was, or let's say the title of the presentation was Passenger Well-Being. So from a manufacturer's point of view, and that is quite different in some areas, as you will see, compared to what you've heard before. So I've structured my presentation along these 7 points, but I think I quickly start. You see, I'm tall, passenger well-being. I can tell you, most of the times, I personally care about leg room. And we've seen this in the presentation of Sandy, and also Werner has mentioned this. But the question, of course, is this all about passenger well-being? I don't think so. There is much more also from an SFE supplier point of view. In contrast, this picture here, is this passenger well-being? To have a lot of leg room, to enjoy a nice wine, to be connected. I can tell you, for my kids, this would not be representative. They just care about staying connected in the aircraft. The rest doesn't matter. For me, being much older, obviously, this would be maybe the right way of traveling. So the question is there the one and only definition for passenger well-being? And I don't think so. But I'm going to show you a few things that, and I'm also, of course, traveling frequently, there are a few things that play a major role, an essential role in passenger well-being, and it starts at home, to be honest. And I differentiate between short and medium-range flights and long-range flights. On a short-range flight, as a passenger, I care more about traffic jams, airport structures, check-in capabilities, security check, boarding, and then maybe enjoy a 1-hour flight. But before enjoying the 1-hour flight, I have spent already a lot of time in all these things before. On a long-range flight, it's quite different, quite the opposite, I would say. Of course, I have to do the same, but let's say everything on board of the aircraft is much more important, so that I feel at the end of the trip as a happy passengers. Anyway, above and on top of all issues, I must admit, and I was a bit surprised that I have not heard this before today, for me and the people I'm talking to, safety is the most important issue, even when talking about passenger well-being on the aircraft. So whatever helps to be safe, it is also a criteria for passenger well-being. I'll give you one example. We design and produce, for example, crew rest compartments. And I think as soon as I know and realize on an aircraft that the pilots, the crew is really in a relaxed manner because they had a nice sleep in a crew rest compartment, I feel much better as a passenger than if I wouldn't know it. So safety first. When you want to know what's happening in the future, in terms of passenger well-being, of course, sometimes it's good to look into the back. Decades ago, and I guess you know the pictures, this was very luxury in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. This was one-class seating, excellent service, but only a few people could afford to travel and to fly. But this was the start. Then this phase has been basically replaced in the 70s and 80s by the introduction of twin aisles, by jets. But then, and also because of the traffic growth, the seat count efficiency, let's say, became more and more important. And see on the next page, that's a picture from the A300, Airbus A300. People were just happy to fly. I think they were not so much concerned about well-being on the aircraft. They were just happy to fly. They could afford to fly. They were ready to spend money for vacation and so on and so on. Then this phase basically was replaced by differentiation and aircraft customization. And in the speech or presentation from Werner Lieber here, you saw a lot of customization competencies and examples. So with the introduction of long-range, really long-range flights, ultra-long-range flights, and with the competition between airlines, differentiation between airlines became the factor, I would say, which has led to a lot of customization, which we, of course, as a supplier of SFE equipment have to cope with. And just looking at the Boeing 747 upper deck, you can see, I think that's a Lufthansa picture, how this materialized, and you even can smell customization and differentiation. And later on in the 90s, I would say, we as business travelers wanted to focus on using a PC, having at all times power to the PC. First batch services have been offered, and of course we wanted to have a nice launch. So coming back to the question of passenger well-being, now the question is, at present and in future, what are the criteria, what are driving more or less passenger well-being? And I would like to start with the industrialization and the more catalog-guided approach. What I've said before and shown before is clear. It has led to a very costly development, and this needed to be limited because on all these airplanes, customization went by far too far, we have to say. And then the OEMs, at least the big OEMs like Airbus and Boeing, choose to come back to a more catalog-guided approach, which was good on the one hand, because it limited the efforts which are needed, let's say, for a supplier like us to materialize a so-called head of version, a customer version. However, of course, it had limited the differentiation for airlines as well. So anyway, I think the industrialization factor, and that is important, definitely was needed in order to cope with the ramp-up. And as you know, there is a steep ramp-up in production of new airplanes. Flexibility was important and is in future important as well. You want configurations that keep you completely flexible. Revenue space, we have seen this now many times before. Revenue space is important in future to gain wherever 1 inch in order to improve quality of seating for the passenger. Digitalization, full digitalization in the aircraft. And of course, maintainability. We are working on the system on a full cabin health and monitoring system. So all these factors are important in future in the context of passenger well-being. But basically, what we think, and I guess that term is known to you, there is one sentence which describes the whole story, I would say, what a passenger experiences or what passenger experience on ground they expect in the air as well. And this is by far not limited to anything. So as a manufacturer, we can contribute a lot, and you will see later on when talking about passenger well-being for our product portfolio, we can contribute a lot, but still there are a lot of criteria which we need to keep in mind. For example, that demographic change. And I would like to quote some figures. Passengers, for example, or people over 65. In 1950, there were 131 million on the world, and it goes up in 2050 to 1.35 billion. Sorry. So it's really a factor of 10, basically. That means more older people are traveling. And this definitely means, in terms of passenger well-being, there may be different things to be on the aircraft, like healthcare systems. So, and this is something which is good for us because we are developing those systems, but which needs to be taken into account as well. Resource depletion, as you know. Some resources, and somebody raised the question about material, some materials will simply disappear and there is no direct replacement. So we are spending a lot of money in order to come up with new material and aircraft interior. Foam, for example, is one thing. Urbanization. I talked about traffic jam, airport structures, and so on and so on. Urbanization means the world population will grow, as you know, but it's growing faster and quicker in big cities. This will even more burden, let's say, to get to the airport. And this is passenger well-being as well. Digital life, I talked about, and globalization. We all know since the end of the 80s, globalization took off as a result of the air traffic. We had to produce at low cost, for example, but also globalization means that people are more traveling than before. So, what is our role? Diehl Aerosystems and all that. We are a so-called Tier 1 supplier, Tier 1 for SFE, seller furnished equipment. That means we have basically a trilateral relationship because we talk to OEMs like Airbus, like Boeing, like Embraer, Bombardier, and so on and so on. We talk to the airlines directly for after-sales services, but also for some beefy components that we have. But we also talk, and that is important, to Tier 1, suppliers. And those suppliers are generating a lot of innovation. And of course, we like to collect those innovations from the Tier N suppliers as well, because this enables us to provide to our customers better solutions. What about our portfolio? And I said that we can contribute a lot to passenger well-being on the aircraft. From the left to the right, you see the lighting. We provide lighting systems to all Airbus types, from single aisle to A380 and A350. Also on each Boeing program we are, except for the 737, but on all others we are as well. We are doing that LED lighting on line fit and on retrofit. The second is then the competency that we have in interiors, starting with floor to floor. So we're going from floor to the top, bins, and so on and so on, down to the floor again, integrating lighting in interiors. Then we're doing, means designing and producing lavatories, showers, for example. We're doing galleys, storages, social areas. And on the right-hand side, you see a testing facility for the wastewater system. And as you may imagine, wastewater system hopefully does tell you something. If that doesn't work, the passenger does not feel very well on the aircraft. And even worse, if that doesn't work, then the airline may be obliged to stop somewhere where normally the airline doesn't want to land. So we can contribute a lot with our portfolio, with all our products for passenger well-being. What are the prospects in future for us? And Werner has mentioned some figures. These pictures should illustrate the market forecast from Airbus and from Boeing, which are revealed once a year. They're analyzing the market region by region and type by type. They have, of course, different interpretations just because of their different programs, I would say. But I can tell you, when my shareholders are asking me, is it still worth working in the aviation and being engaged in the aviation, you always need to keep three figures in mind. Since 25 years, there's one direction only, that is growth. 5% every year growth. This means, and this is pure mathematics, that's the number Werner has mentioned, every 15 years, this is a doubling of the traffic. And as a result of the doubling, more than 30,000 new airplanes are needed within the next 20 years. So this is common to all, I would say, market forecast. We are extremely happy to be in that, but there are challenges as well, which I've mentioned and which I will show in a minute as well. Where are we positioned? You can see, and I'm always saying we are now belonging to the big ones, because we are approximately a 1 billion company. We are a family-owned company. But from the big ones, we are by far the smallest one. And one of the big ones was standing on the stage here before me, so competitor A. Let me say, using this chart, until last week, I was really proud being, let's say, originated from Germany, because I think what matters for us is really execution, is very high quality, is being reactive, to deliver on time, on performance, all these things. What I mean with the last week is the Volkswagen story, that there has been obviously a big management issue within Volkswagen to manage the software for the exhaust system. What do I want to say with this? We don't like to be bigger than we are actually. I think that's the right size to be a 1 billion company. We are playing in that big match, yes. We don't like to become bigger. There's a natural growth as well. But if you're too greedy, if you're too big, you lose control. You lose your management capabilities. You're collapsing. You don't perform anymore. You don't deliver anymore. And sooner or later, you're out of the market. That's for sure. Therefore, we think we are right-sized where we are. How does our business model look like? As an SFE supplier, mainly, we are developing on behalf of our customers, airplane maker customers, I would say, a system, a cabin system or interiors. That's a standard development. But before that is finished, let's say, the customer configuration phase is starting, and each customer gets his own, each airline customer, as you know, gets his own configuration. So this is our core business. We like customization. We are not, by far not against customization. We would like to make money in that area. We are fully prepared to do so. And of course, once an aircraft type is in service, there is an after-sales service as well. I mentioned retrofit, for example. We can do all sorts of reconfigurations in the cabin from retrofitting lighting systems up to lavs, showers, or whatsoever. You see a few pictures of products that I've mentioned before. On the left-hand side, a picture from the A350 cabin, where we are doing the lighting, the lining, the bins, for example, the ceiling panel, the dome. On the right-hand side, a picture from the 787, where we do the lighting as well, the mood lighting, full LED. So really, that's still the latest state-of-the-art technology. Few more pictures. On the left-hand side, you see a picture into a QS compartment. And as I mentioned before, for me, this is important for passenger well-being on the aircraft as well. Then you see a picture from a lavatory that we are designing and producing. Passenger well-being in that area is extremely important because I believe it's mainly the last or the remaining area where you can enjoy some privacy, if you allow me to say, because nobody can see you. But also it's a matter of hygienic. So what we are having in our portfolio is a full touchless lavatory, so that you're not obliged to touch anything. It starts with the door itself, but also with the flap, the cover, the soap dispenser, and so on and so on. That is contributing to passenger well-being, believe me. And this is what our core competence is. The next one is the dome on the A350. And the right-hand picture is the so-called single-aisle space flex, which has been generated in order to put more seats on the aircraft and fully integrated galley and lavatory module at the back door of the aircraft. What are our top innovations in future? On the left-hand side, and I will show you some pictures more, is a different way of dealing with the design language of the interior. In the middle, again, a lavatory and fuel cell, smart boarding system, and a green galley. I will show you some more pictures here. So we like to play with lighting on the aircraft. So what you can see here, there are no, the surface of the sidewall lining is always the same. It's just that we play with the lighting. So we can create certain edges just by using our lighting system. And this should give you some opportunity to differentiate yourself from other airlines. And also we can use sidewall panels, for example, for projection. So we are also designing a projection system on the aircraft and can use surfaces to project anything. So advertisement, for example. I talked about touchless functions in the lavatory. That's already there, so we can do it. And our champion, I would say, and our innovation is this one here, is a fuel cell, which is built into a cart, a galley trolley, basically, that provides power to serve a galley for full flight. And we are using a liquid that is known to the aviation already because it's used for de-icing on the aircraft, for example. And of course, our aim is not to make only galleys independent from the aircraft power supply, but sometime in future to make the entire cabin independent from the aircraft power supply, maybe even for the IFE system. So that's a good start. We have a demonstrator ready by the end of this year, so it's no longer, I would say, just a paper tiger. It's already there, and it's really a big step forward in terms of aircraft system development in also passenger well-being, because I believe passenger also would like to see more green things on the aircraft. Smart boarding. You never would have thought about this being in the context of passenger well-being, I guess. So smart boarding means we have a system that you get detected, eye detection when you board the airplane, and then the system automatically guides you to your seat. So on the left-hand part of the picture, you can see Mrs. Smith. That means that's projected, that's part of the sidewall lining. So you get detected when entering the aircraft, and then you get automatically boarded to the seat. As I've said before, unfortunately, and I'm a good example, people get older. And you know, when you're 65 or 70, you may have difficulties to find your right place on the aircraft. So this certainly contributes to passenger well-being. Smart boarding system, which we do and which is connected to our latest generation of cabin management system. The green unit, that's a galley which is without any galley cooling, but which keeps the temperature for at least one flight by using different material on the aircraft. Maybe there is no automatic connection to passenger well-being, but as I said before, people like suppliers, like airplane makers to invent more in green technology, and we have the answer for that. So, coming to the end, if I had 3 wishes, I have to say, from my perspective, from a passenger point of view, I only can say, we all are traveling a lot, I guess, that we want all this, what I've said, what we expect on ground, we expect in the air as well. So from a passenger point of view, I believe that's clear. If I extend that to airlines, certainly when a passenger expects that, airlines have to cope with that. They have to introduce it sooner or later. They have to differentiate themselves from other airlines. They are under strong competition, and so on and so on. So it's not a question whether it's happening. It's sooner or later it is happening for sure, all these nice features. And if I look from a supplier's point of view, I must admit that there's a price and it needs to pay off. And maybe even if I have to put some water into the wine here, as a supplier, and we are a family-owned business, just a small size, if you may remember, we have had a strong investment phase behind us. We had lots of programs which were delayed by years even. So we want to come back, obviously, to a situation where we innovate a lot, where we design a lot, but one day we really make money because the ramp-up goes on, and we can, let's say, profit or take benefit from everything which we have done before. So, coming back to my initial remark, what about passenger well-being? Hopefully you have seen and you realize it's by far more than just leg room, but also by far more compared to what you've seen in the morning. So we are in the middle of that passenger well-being, and hopefully we will be able to manage all this, because otherwise passenger will just move to another transport vehicle. So many thanks.